2 a.m., and your phone won't stop buzzing. Not sweet, not concerned. Something sharper. 3 days ago, you finally said no. You pulled away, and for a moment, it felt like freedom. That feeling didn't last. The same person who once seemed so calm, so composed, so completely in control, cracks. And what comes out from underneath is nothing like the person you thought you knew. This is what happens when a narcissist senses they're losing control, and why that buzzing phone won't stop. Phase 1. The test. At first, they don't panic. They probe. A text that seems casual but isn't. A sudden appearance somewhere you'll be. A small favor asked out of nowhere. Sometimes it's smaller than that. A comment dropped into a mutual friend's conversation. Timed so it's guaranteed to reach you. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you could point to and call proof. That's exactly the point. This isn't concern. It's reconnaissance. They're checking whether the leash still holds, whether one small tug is enough to bring you back into position. If it works, they'll retreat, satisfied. If it doesn't, phase 2. The mask slips. For most of the relationship, they've shown you a version of themselves. Calm, charming, in control. But real control was never about calmness. It was about certainty that you'd never truly leave. The moment they realize that certainty is gone, something underneath breaks through. A look that lasts half a second too long. A tone that's suddenly too sharp. For the first time, you might see something close to the truth. Not because they're finally being honest, but because the mask, for just a second, cannot keep up with the panic underneath. Psychologists call this a narcissistic injury, a direct threat to the false self they've spent years constructing. And the reaction to that injury rarely stays quiet for long. Phase 3, the rage. Narcissistic rage doesn't always look the way you'd expect. It comes in 2 forms, and both are designed to do one thing: restore control. The first is explosive. Sudden anger, raised voices, accusations that seem to come from nowhere. You're cruel. You're ungrateful. You're the reason everything is falling apart. It's disorienting specifically because it's disproportionate. The emotional response no longer matches whatever small thing triggered it, because it was never really about that thing at all. The second form is quieter and often more damaging. Cold withdrawal. Silence that stretches for days, and in many cases, a version of events shared with everyone else. Friends, family, mutual acquaintances. Where you become the unstable one, the cruel one, the problem. Suddenly, people who've never seen this person raise their voice are hearing a very different story about you, and you're not even in the room to correct it. This is the same silent treatment and the same blame shifting you may have seen earlier in the relationship. Except now, it isn't a warning anymore. It's retaliation. Phase 4, the discard. Eventually, one of 2 things happens. The first is the discard, a sudden, cold ending, often with no real explanation. One day you matter, the next you're erased, sometimes replaced so quickly it feels like the next relationship was already waiting in line before this one was even over. There's no closure. There's no final conversation that makes sense of anything. Just an abrupt, engineered silence. The second is hoovering, named for the way a vacuum pulls things back in. Sudden apologies, promises that things will be different, a return of the same charm, the same intensity that hooked you in the very beginning. This isn't remorse. It's a recalibration. an attempt to regain the control that was slipping away, using the exact same tools that worked the first time. And because those tools worked once, you already know, somewhere, that they might work again. That's not weakness. That's exactly what they're counting on. And here's what makes this cycle so difficult to break. It can repeat. Discard, then hoover. Rage, then charm. Over and over, each time reinforcing the belief that maybe, this time, it will be different. There's a reason that belief is so hard to shake. Psychologists point to something called intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. When a reward doesn't come every time, but only sometimes, unpredictably, the behavior tied to chasing it doesn't fade. It gets stronger. A relationship that is warm and safe every day is easy to walk away from when it turns cold. A relationship that is cold, then suddenly warm again, at random, without warning. That's the one that's almost impossible to let go of. Not because the good moments outweigh the bad ones, because the unpredictability itself becomes the hook. This dynamic even has a name: trauma bonding. It's the same attachment mechanism that keeps people in cults, in abusive workplaces, in relationships everyone around them can see are hurting them. A bond that forms not despite the highs and lows, but because of them. The brain doesn't just remember the pain, it remembers the relief that came right after it, and starts treating that relief as if it were love. Naming it doesn't undo it instantly, but it changes what the pull actually is. It's not proof that you belong together. It's not fate or chemistry or a love too strong to walk away from. It's a well-documented psychological response. The same one over and over, in situation after situation, that looks nothing alike on the surface. And responses that are learned can be unlearned. It won't be different. Because none of this was ever about you specifically. It was about what you represented, a source of control, attention, and validation they could not risk losing. When that source appears to be leaving, the reaction isn't grief. It's panic, dressed up as anger or dressed up as charm, depending on which one is more likely to work. Understanding this doesn't make it painless, but it does make it clearer. The rage isn't proof that you did something wrong. The sudden coldness isn't proof that you were never loved the way you thought. It's proof of exactly what we talked about last time. That what you were dealing with was never really about connection at all. If you recognized the 5 signs from before, and now you're recognizing this, the anger, the silence, the sudden disappearance, or the sudden return, you're not imagining it. You're watching the pattern complete itself. What do you do when you're in the middle of this cycle? Let me know in the comments. And if this is happening to you right now, that's exactly what we need to talk about next.